Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast episode. My name is Alicia Gogan, the host of the Glow Up Secrets podcast, where I help you expand your mind and become more self-aware so that you can glow up into the best version of yourself. Hi, if you're watching on YouTube, there is a new background. Listen, we have things going on in this apartment. This is not the final production, although I don't mind it. You know, new vibe. You can see my coffee table, TV. My living room is very minimal. I need to get a carpet still. You guys know I moved my makeup and like my desk more into like the living room, but it looks really put together. I feel like I just love the setup. I know you can't really see too much of it, but follow me on Instagram because I'm always posting. And lately I've been posting my mirror selfies in the new mirror area and it looks brilliant. It's here. It's a little bit of a rebrand, but the reason why that I'm in my living room right now is because I need to make space for my actual office where the studio is going to be, because I did purchase the chair. Okay. And I got it custom blue, and I'm really hoping that the blue that I get is like the proper baby blue, the cloud blue, something similar to the color that I'm wearing in my podcast photo. So for the time being, we will be in the living room. I don't hate it. I do not hate it. If you're listening on audio, then, maybe go check out the pod if you're really interested in to see my living room, but you probably don't really care. Also, just one more thing. I am wearing this long sleeve shirt from Aloe. They did send it to me because I'm going to be working with them on a new project, but I gotta say, this is snatching the body where it needs to be snatched, and the color, the dark green, is giving fall. So I don't know. If you want it, I have it linked on my Like to Know It. But we are not here to talk about shirts today, are we? No, we are not. We are here to talk about back to school season. Because you know what? I realized that just because I'm not going back to school doesn't mean y'all aren't going back to school. And honestly, when I look at my analytics and I see your guys' age, and yes, I know how old you guys are. Well, not really. Individually, I do not know how old every single one of you guys are. But in general, my analytics tell me the age group that listens to my podcast. And I would say it's a pretty 50-50 split between 18 and 24, and then like 24 to 34. So, we got the youngins. Love you guys. Like 18 years old. Wow. Was I even listening? Yes, I was listening to podcasts when I was 18, but I love it. I love that you guys are so interested in this kind of content, healing, leveling up, glowing up into the best version of yourself at 18. Like, girl, you really have it together more than you even think. And even the ones who are older, like the 34-year-olds, I know there's older people who listen to my podcast too, which I'm also just honored. I freaking love that. So regardless, I posted on the Instagram, not the Instagram, the podcast Instagram, the Glow Up Secrets podcast. If you guys if you guys are really into Pinterest and like Pinterest quotes and just like, I don't know, funny, cool aesthetic things, then definitely follow the podcast Instagram, because it's just, I don't know, it's fun over there. But I do also ask all of the Q&As on there and on my Instagram sometimes, and I just tell you guys to go somewhere, whatever. I asked you guys what advice you need for back to school, and a lot of you guys sent in questions and you guys needed advice. So we got to make a whole episode about this. Now, this is definitely going to be for any age group, like the freshmen, the ones who are just graduating, the ones who are going into college, the ones who maybe took a few years off and they're going back to college as a mature student. You guys had a lot of questions regarding balancing so many things now that you're going back into the school year. Advice for when it comes to friendships, obviously that's a thing. Failing, grades, being productive. A few of you guys were asking about what to do when you're taking a major that your parents are making you take. So I compiled a list, of course, in my Notion. I freaking love Notion. I guess that's the first tip for your back to school. Get on Notion. Anyways, I compiled a list and we're going to go through them and I'm going to give you my best advice. Listen, I haven't, sorry if you didn't hear that. I have not been in school for a very long time. When my last program, I graduated in 2019. So it was the beginning of 2019. Well, not the beginning, I should say springtime of 2019. And then, but you know what? Okay, let me completely backtrack here and give you a little rundown of like my college experience in a way. I'm not going to give everything because like I want to give you guys the tips. So Right after high school, I went to Durham College and I took special event planning, and then I ended up having to come back home because your girl didn't have enough money, and that's the times where things were rough back home with my mom as well. So I went back home. I ended up working for like a year at Tim Hortons, and I worked full-time, girl, 6 to 2, woke my ass up every day at like 5 a.m. I grinded, I worked, and I don't know, I was like 18 at that point, and 18 years old. So I was still trying to figure out what type of program that I wanted to take. I was just trying to like make money and get my car, get my license, all that kind of stuff. And then I ended up going back to school, I think the next year or something. And I went to Georgian College. By the way, I'm from Barrie, Ontario, if anyone does not know. And so I went to Georgian College, which was like in my hometown, Barrie, and I took, what did I take? Hospitality management for hotels and resorts. I think at that point I just was like looking at different programs that I wanted, like that sounded interesting to me. Sorry. I had no idea about psychology. I had no idea about mindset work. I was like just kind of starting like fitness and health, like interested in that, but I had no really idea of like I was into self-help, yes, but I didn't like correlate like that could be maybe something that I pursue for a career. So like that was not even a thing for me. I literally didn't even know that like you could go to school for psychology in high school. Like nobody told me that. Like I missed the memo on that one, but I digress. So I went to school for hospitality management for hotels and resorts. That was like a 2-year program, learned business, learned how to manage resorts, like hotels, all that kind of stuff. Got a lot of experience, which honestly, it was like a pretty well-rounded course. But as I was in that course, I started to get really into health and fitness. This is where like my self-development era had occurred, like full-blown, whatever. And so I kind of knew, honestly, by the time I was done that course, I didn't really want to pursue like working in hospitality management. And then I got into hospitality in terms of making money, like as a server and things like that. But I didn't really want to go any further than that. I didn't want to go out west like most of the people in my program did. They all went out west and they all worked at like the really beautiful hotels in Banff. Literally, you could not catch me out in Banff for nothing. I wanted to be like, send me out to Florida or something, but I wasn't going there. And so I didn't really do much with that program, but by the time I was done with that program, I should say, I got really into health and fitness. And so I was already pursuing another program, it ended up being workplace wellness and health promotion. So that was kind of more aligned to me. And I took that program as well. So that's when I moved out to closer to Toronto. And I took that course, and then I got a job through co-op, and then as I did my co-op and I got into that job, this is now beginning of like 2019. And then I got a full-time position at a tech company being a health and wellness consultant. As I was doing that though, I started getting into really getting into psychology and mental health and stuff like that. And now I had always been into mental health, like way before I even took that. But I started to realize, especially in the fitness and health space, and especially from my experience and working with other people, that it was so much it was your mental health that was the issue. It wasn't the fact that you don't know what to do in the gym. So I kind of realized very quickly I didn't want to be in that field. And so I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do. And in that moment in time, that's when my hand pain occurred, which made me go deeper into mental health and understand more about psychology and everything like that, mind-body connection. And then the pandemic happened, and then I was still working at that job, but I was trying to heal myself. So like I wasn't trying to pursue a new career because I didn't even know if I could even start a new career. And I definitely, by the time I was out of all of that, my death and my rebirth, I healed myself. And this is when COVID started like calming down a little bit more and everyone was going back to work. And I was still a server, by the way. And I was still working at the tech company. I realized that I wanted to leave the tech company because it wasn't paying me enough, and this is not even what I wanted to pursue anyways. And so I was like, you know what? I'll just grind it out. I'll just bartend. I'm making way more money, and I will either consider going back to school to do something in the psychology field, or actually, it wasn't really an or. I was just considering, like, do I want to go back for another 4 to 6 years to become a psychologist or something? Or do I want to, like, see other routes? Like, I was into somatic therapy. Well, I still am. Just life coaching in general, just coaching. I took a lot of different, like, extracurricular, that's not even the word. I took a lot of courses outside of regular schooling. I spent a lot of money learning about I took a bunch of stress resilience courses. I got certified as a life coach, health coach, so many fucking coaches, certifications. You don't even need to be, but whatever. I took all of these like extra things. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then this is when I was also starting my social media. And I just knew that I wanted to do social media and that was going to be it. It wasn't like I wasn't going to not go back to school, but I knew that I wanted to do and share what I've learned through my whole entire life on social media. And I didn't need to go be a psychologist to do that. Like, that's totally fine. I can share my story. I say all that because I've gone through a lot of different ebbs and flows. So, I mean, maybe the first thing when it comes to giving you advice is it's totally fine if you do not know what you want to fully do. And I think that you'll just never fully know until you start something and then you realize, ooh, I don't like this, or ooh, I like this instead. And you kind of go wherever you want. And even for me, like, I'm a lifelong learner. I don't think that I'll ever stop learning, whether that be traditional school or different programs that I'm investing in outside of the actual school system, which I really, not gonna lie, I don't want to get too much into this, but I do think that, especially in Canada, I live in Canada, I do think a lot of the school systems have a lot of politics weaving themselves within a lot of curriculum, and that's been one of the reasons why I haven't actually decided to go back to school, because there's a lot of political things happening. And so, yeah, anyways, and also I'm just successful doing what I'm doing. But anyways, regardless, I will always be a lifelong learner, whether I go back to school or not, or take more certifications or not, whatever. So again, I say all that because I have definitely been through the journey. And I've had to go back. I've had to contemplate about going back or deciding not to, or just dealing with all the things that come with schooling. Schooling was such a huge part of my life, only until kind of recently, but it still kind of is. But I think it's important to talk about this because, yeah, schooling is going to be a part of your life probably for a long time. So it's like, how can we enjoy the process more? How can we not, only love our lives when it's like 2 months of summer and then the rest we're just dreading it because we hate what we're doing, or we don't know how to be productive, or we struggle with friends, like all that kind of stuff. Like, we need to learn how to enjoy this because it's going to be a part of our lives for a long time. And for me personally, education is always going to be a part of my life. And I don't want to ever give that up. I actually love it, but I didn't love it back in the day. I was really not, it wasn't that I wasn't a good student, but you know what? We're going to talk about that because somebody had asked about feeling like not smart enough and stuff. And that was my experience in high school. I was not a good student in the way I was not getting good grades. I didn't understand anything ever. I got pulled out of class to sit in those classes where they give you extra time, which ended up messing me up more because then I was lost when I got put back into classes. I also subconsciously was told basically like I was not smart enough and I was dumb in a way. And so that really affected the way that I tried to study and understand things. And until I completely switched myself concept. Honestly, this happened in grade 12. Instantly, my grades got so much better. And then I was really, really good in college. And I was like an A1 student because I applied myself simply, and also changing how I viewed myself from somebody who is slow and dumb to somebody who understands things. And it's fine if I need more time. And I'm not actually saying, I'm not actually trying to call myself dumb or slow, but literally that's what I thought. So yeah. Anyways, let's get into the tips because there's a lot. So somebody had asked tips for freshman year of high school. So I'm assuming freshman year. Okay. So the thing is, when we in Canada, we don't really call each year freshman, sophomore, whatever the other ones are. We just call it grade 9, grade 10, 11, and 12. That is high school, 9, 10, 11, 12. So but I'm pretty sure freshman year would be your first year, I believe. I could look that up, but I'm too lazy because I'm reading off my Notion. Whatever. You're early in your school year. I already know it. Understand that everyone is in your shoes. When you are starting out somewhere new or a new grade or whatever, everyone doesn't know what the F they're doing. Everyone is scared and nervous. Everyone wants to do really well. So just embrace that. I feel a lot of the times it's we demonize the fact that we feel afraid, or we demonize the fact that we're nervous, or I shouldn't be nervous, and how do I be more confident? How do I love this stuff? But it's also embrace the fact that yeah, I'm a little nervous today. Yeah, oh my God, we're all walking through school and nobody really knows each other and everyone's trying to make friends and this, that. just embrace that. Because I just feel like there's too much pressure on yourself when you try and tell yourself like you shouldn't be nervous or you shouldn't be in this like new era. Like it's a new era. Embrace that. I also think just being open is going to be very helpful when you are starting anything off in a new year, a new school, coming back to anything. Be open to friends, be open to listening, be open to the teachers, just be open. I think that it's really going to help you be able to create networks and friendships and connections, everything, regardless of if the goal is to have friendships or not. Even when it comes to good grades, like being open with your energy is going to be so important for you to actually be successful in school, with friendships, things like that. One more thing is I think that you should detach from outcomes. I think sometimes, again, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Like when we're starting a new year in school or high school, it's like, oh my gosh, like I have to have the perfect outfit, or I have to like say the right thing. Like you might put a lot of pressure on yourself to, let's say, find a group of friends. And, you know, if you aren't having the best first day or the second day, or like people are not as social or whatever, if you're super attached to being like, oh, I have to find a friend group, or I have to understand a concept in school, or like, you know, my life is over, then you're just adding more pressure to yourself. So detach from like needing to have friends or these certain friend groups, or like needing to have the best grades. Like you're going to get them. Yes, you're absolutely going to get them, but like just chill, relax. Like it doesn't need to be that big of a deal. Like you will absolutely figure it out. Somebody asked advice on being motivated, but then procrastinating on things. And I just wrote in my notes, like, you're not always going to be motivated. Like you can't always rely on motivation for you to get things done. And now I am going to talk about some studying tips. So I'll continue to speak on that more, but just know like you're not always going to feel motivated. So I'll just leave it at that. You won't always be motivated. So don't rely on that. Someone asked how to make connections with people and make friends while studying at home exclusively. So I say if you are somebody who's like studying at home, that is totally fine, but definitely don't underestimate the importance of connection. And I used to do this too. Like I am definitely an introvert, and especially back in the day, like I had no interest in making friends. Well, I did have the college experience for sure when I went to Durham College, but as I was getting older, I was kind of just cared about getting the work done, and that's that. And that's totally fine if that's like where you're at in life. But I also did not have a social group to begin with. Like I didn't even really have like solid friendship. So I really should have been putting myself out more. And so what I would say for that, and I think this kind of works with me just working from home too, is get yourself out of the house. So if you can, maybe go study or work at a public library that's near you. I used to do that sometimes. Depending on the school, like you might have certain connections with different libraries or the actual school library. Of course, going to coffee shops, going to places where you know there's a lot of students that spend a lot of their time, because students don't just always stay at the school to study. Like I know when I was in college, I definitely went to different coffee shops. Just getting around people who are kind of in that same vibe as you, college student, or even maybe they have their normal jobs. Getting around those people, you're going to give yourself the opportunity potentially just to look somebody in the eyes and say hi. And then you say hi every single time that you're there. And then eventually you start talking. Like very small little things that you do, changing up your environment, will make a big impact on the potential friendships that you will make in your life. But like, you just have to think about it like this. And I guess this can kind of be a limiting belief, because yes, you can make friends in certain situations, but like if you're always at home, the chances are you are not going to have a lot of friendships or connections because you're always at home. So if that's what you're looking for, you must take yourself outside of your home, go to a coffee shop, go to a library that's like public. You can even go into Facebook groups. Like I know that there was a lot of Facebook groups that I would get into. I remember when I was going to Durham College, there was like Facebook groups for the dorms and stuff. So you can meet friends that way. And then they would have like weekly meetups where you would study together, or you would even go out together. Like there's so many things, even looking in your hometown. Like I know that outside of Georgian College, there were different, companies that would run these like weekend college things where it was more so like bar stuff, which I'm not really suggesting you go do like bar hops and stuff, but like that is another way that you could meet people. even if you follow them on Instagram and the next day, you go and meet up with them and stuff, obviously not everyone, especially at the bar, is going to be your best friend during the day, but you never know, right? And it doesn't always have to be bar things. There's always things probably going around. So looking in your hometown on Facebook groups, things like that. And even I'm sure you have some friends who are in college that have other friends. So there's many times where, you know what, I actually think about this when it comes to my siblings. By the way, if you guys don't know, I do have a few siblings, but they're half siblings. So I technically, I grew up in a single child household, I guess. But I did have sisters and a brother who were around my age, but same dad, different moms. So they lived with their moms. And I went to a high school right down the street from two of my siblings. And then my third sister ended up going to that high school as well. So they were all three at North and I was at Eastview. And so I didn't have the best. I had friend groups at Eastview, but I feel like my high school experience was just awkward and weird. And it wasn't like I didn't have friends. I definitely did, but I didn't have the best friendships because I was also unhappy and I had friends. I definitely did. And we did a lot of things together. So I don't even know why I'm saying that, but whatever. Doesn't matter. I think high school is friendships are way different than older friendships. But a lot of the times I hung out with my siblings and then I met so many of my current friends now from them because I went to their parties. And it's so funny because last night on Instagram, this is going to be a quick side note, probably not quick though. Last night I posted a video on my story and it was this video where, where they have little camcorders of recording whoever comes in and out of the house. And it was recording a bunch of kids, boys and girls walking in the house, out of the house. They had towels and bathing suits and, just every day the camera was just recording them coming in and out. And there was just a bunch of friend groups and whatever. And they're talking about how, or the parents, I guess, had recorded that and put it on Instagram. And they were when your house is the house. And they're just saying we have the house that everyone comes to. We have all the snacks. We have all the things. All the kids always want to come over, things like that, which, by the way, I want that for my kids so bad. I want to have a home where all of their friends come over, pool parties, team parties, whatever it is. I will be that suburban mother living through my children. I promise you that. But anyways, I had posted that. And my sister had responded last night and she was like, oh my God, this just reminds me of the days when her house was the house, by the way. Her mom always let everyone come over. And my brother, he played football, he played soccer, he played everything. He was one of those light skinned athletes that everyone loved. Everyone loved Terrell. And so he was very popular and everyone always wanted to come to the parties. And then Vanessa was a very big socialite as well. So she had a lot of friends, whatever. So everyone was always at the house. And I met so many people from just putting myself there. Now, obviously, they're my siblings. So I was just over there all the time. But I just mean simply, if you have a friend who is more of a social butterfly than you, go hang out with that friend and listen. Okay, I was talking about partying. Obviously, partying is not the most important thing, but I definitely met people who I didn't just party with. I was able to see and hang out with during the day, and I got into their friend groups and things like that. So I think honestly the best thing is if you are somebody who's more isolated and you work from home, you study from home, whatever, who is your friend that's more of a social butterfly than you? Because honestly, go out with them a few times and you will make a lot more friends, honestly. And you'll probably pick up how to be a little bit more social as well. That is my best tip. Someone asked how to stop being anxious about studying. And I think that you need to remind yourself that you're not going to die if you don't understand something or if something feels overwhelming. Okay? Because this is the thing, when you think about studying, it's this huge project and you have the story that's attached to it. And the story is I can't do it. It's going to be so hard. I'm not going to understand it. I need to get this grade or I'm going to die. You need to kind of de-escalate the situation or the story that you have in your mind about what it is that you're about to do. Truly. Because if you don't, then yes, it's going to feel that big. It's going to feel like you're literally going to die. And then you're going to continue to procrastinate it. And, I think another thing is you need to start in smaller chunks. When you feel oh my gosh, this thing is so big, you want to work on the story that you're telling yourself about this thing. And then you want to give yourself little small tangible goals or like things that you want to work towards when it comes to maybe studying or working on a project. If you think about that whole entire project and how you have to get all this done and, oh my God, I have to research for like 2 weeks. And then on top of that, then I have to come up with a presentation. And then I have to think about presenting it in front of my class. And I have so much anxiety, and that's going to be a whole, okay. Let's not even think about you presenting in front of the class. Irrelevant right now. Okay. Let's not think about the fact that you have to then take all that research and put it into some sort of presentation. Irrelevant right now. Let's first look at the fact that you have to research. Okay, that is still a little bit big and like it's a lot, but let's just only focus on that. We'll focus on the rest of the stuff later. And on top of that, how can we make doing the research of this project a little bit more tangible and a little less scary? Okay, well, let's not think about having to spend the whole entire week every single day after school for 5 hours studying on this thing. Like that's also really big. Okay, how can I bring it into smaller chunks? Okay, well, maybe if I have to study every single day, which I do think when you are working on a project, it really is helpful for you to stay consistent on that thing and do it in smaller chunks rather than you wait a whole week and then you bust it out for like 5 hours. I do think that it helps with anxiety if you do something small every single day. I do think that. So, instead of doing 4 hours, you're just going to do 1 hour. And within that 1 hour study session, you're going to do a method that we're going to talk about later on when it comes to studying. So it makes it even easier. Like you really have to make things smaller, more tangible. If not, the story is going to be insane. You're going to keep procrastinating and then you're going to make it way worse than it needs to be. And it truly does not need to be like that because at the end of the day, you are not going to die. I promise you that. I know studying can be annoying and difficult, but you will not die. You'll be able to do it. Okay, somebody asked, how can I stay consistent with my healthy habits when my whole entire routine changes now that you're going back to school? Which totally makes sense, right? Because usually maybe during the summer, you're waking up at like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and you have time to like, I don't know, do whatever. Maybe you have a job, so you work at like 5 o'clock or whatever you do, but you have so much time. But now like back to school, you got to wake up at like 6 a.m., get things done. And you have all this time throughout the day that you're at school. Like I totally get it. Oh my gosh. I just remember I was posting a Drake song the other day, Scholarships from What a Time to Be Alive. I think that's the album. I don't really remember. And it just brought me back to the time where I was really, really in my health and fitness grind, although I usually am. So I don't even know why I like say it as if I'm not really. But I would wake up at like 5 a.m. in the dead middle of the winter, dark as shit, eat my oatmeal with my protein powder and my freaking peanut butter in that thing, because that's when I was counting macros, which don't recommend. That was just way too stressful for me. I would listen to that song. I would drive my old ass Mazda from my grandma's house because me and my mom got kicked out of our trap house at that point and I wasn't living with her. Love that for me. So I just grinded more. That was a hard time for me. And I would drive to the gym and I would do like my hour workout and then I would get to class at like, I don't even know. By then it was like 6 to 7-ish. And I would, oh my gosh, it's so funny because I would usually have oatmeal again. I would literally go to Tim Hortons. I would ask for a hot cup of water and I would go sit my ass down in class and I would pull out my container with my more protein powder and oats and I would put the hot water in it and I would make it in class and that's what I would eat and then I would be into class because I just needed to get shit done. Like I didn't have a lot of time and you know, it wasn't summer anymore where I could wake up at like 7 o'clock and go to the gym and have this like fun, fresh, that girl morning routine. So I say all of that, I don't know, maybe as inspiration, but also like, this is what you're going to have to understand. Your priorities are going to shift. Okay. So you might have to, yes, do a shorter workout if that's what you want to do when it comes to consistent with your healthy habits. Another thing is maybe you need to go to sleep at least 30 minutes earlier than you usually do, or wake up at least 15 minutes earlier than you usually do. And I know it sounds like small and like, that's not going to make a difference. It does. If you want to be healthy, you're going to have to understand the priorities are going to switch. But on top of that, you're going to need to make a little bit more room for things and you're going to shorten the things that you do when it comes to healthy habits. But it's still it's still going to count. Your workout is still going to count, even if you do a 30-minute workout versus like your 45-minute, like going to the gym and getting everything done, like having the best time of your life. Like you just need to be a little bit more efficient. Now, I will suggest you go listen to the podcast that I posted last week about productivity. I talk about a lot of ways in which that you can be more productive and more efficient in a short amount of time. And someone had also asked how to manage 7 hours of school, 2 hours of tuition. They said tuition. I don't know what that really means. Homework, exams, hobbies, getting it all done. And honestly, like if I'm going to be dead ass with you and I'm doing this because I want you to just like not be so stressed, you're not going to get it all done. You're not going to be able to get 7-8 hours of school and then like, let's say you have a job and then hobbies and then all your healthy routines and balancing friends and family and everything perfect. You're not going to do it. And guess what? You don't need to. This is a new season of your life. Understand this, okay? So the season of life for you, for most of you, is school. So the main priority is going to be school and studying and getting the shit done that you need to get done and being very productive and efficient and learning how to do things and not waste your time, of course. But even then, there's still going to be like a little bit of time in your days and your weeks where you're going to have to be able to allot it to your hobbies, to your friends, to your work, whatever. It's not that you can't have your hobbies or you can't see your friends, but maybe it's going to look like you're probably having like a weekend with your friends once a month. Like you have 3 other weekends. Like there's not that many weekends in a month, right? So, you know, ideally, yes, we want to have our weekends with our friends and our hobbies and then after school, like sleep, whatever. But realistically, yeah, maybe it's going to be once a month that you go and see your friends and you go out and do something. And the other 3 weekends you're using to prioritize your hobbies or working at work. Like I did not have a social life for so many freaking years because weekends were not an option for me to just go hang out. And if I did go out, I was still getting my ass up and working. Like I never, ever until I went full time as a social media influencer that I had free weekends to like wake up at 8 a.m. and like watch YouTube videos and like go see my friends and like get ready and like whatever. No, I worked. I worked all of the time. And if I did go out, I literally, this is insane that I even did this, but I would go out to the club. And this is like early in the college years though, I will say. But even when after the college years, like I still worked and sometimes I would go out, but maybe I wouldn't go as late. But when like my early college years, I would literally go out to the club. I would get home maybe 2:00, get into bed at 3:00, wake my ass up at 5 a.m. to start my Tim Hortons shift at 6 a.m. That's literally what I would do until I started to move into the more bartending industry. And then obviously I had like days where I could actually sleep in. But still, you know what I would do when I would bartend? And I would like bartend weddings and whatever. The wedding would be done at like, it depends on when, sometimes I would close the shift and there would be no point because everyone that's downtown would be leaving. But sometimes I would be done around like 12 or 1:00. Guess where my ass was going? Downtown to meet all my friends. Like, girl, you just worked an 8-hour shift. So anyways, I say all that just to say you're not going to be able to balance it all and that's totally fine. So don't try. Like, just don't try to do it. Like, take off the stress. Understand that there's going to be so much time for hobbies and so much time for friends and all of these amazing things, certain areas of your life. And it doesn't need to be perfectly balanced. Like, a perfectly balanced life does not exist. Like, we can try and aim for balance, but it's not always going to be like that. And that's totally fine. Someone had asked advice for going back to school after a few years. So I'm assuming you're probably like a mature student. So maybe you took time off and then you're going back. And they also said like how to put blinders on and just like focus on yourself without comparing. I'm assuming what they mean is feeling maybe a little bit insecure because you're going back to school. Maybe you're a little bit older and you're not in like the college scene of like partying and like doing like, I don't know, sorority shit. Not like we had it here, but like that kind of stuff, you know, the partying, the this, that. Understand that there are so many people who are mature students and who take long periods of time off and come back. And so I just say that because you're not alone. Like, you're absolutely not alone. But even younger people, like, not everyone does the whole college experience and the partying. Some people can't. Like, I did for a little bit when I was living in the dorms at Durham College. But, like, at the end of the day, like, girl, Like, I'm not no Nepo baby. Ain't nobody paying my bills. Okay, I had to get up every day, and every single time that I wasn't studying, I was basically working or doing something. Like, I tried my best to go out and like have fun, but like that wasn't the reality of like every single year in college. I experienced it for a little bit, but then I realized like now. But on top of that, I didn't even really love it. Like, I wanted to work on my health and fitness and like prep myself for my future because I had to. Like, I was in survival mode. Like, I had no time to chill. But honestly, I think that there's no point in comparing yourself or judging yourself because no one's really judging you but you. Like, if you were to go into a classroom, let's say, and everyone's younger than you, it is really irrelevant that you're older. Like, if somebody, let's say, if somebody did say something to you, it's like, okay, well, they're just being rude and insecure. So like, they're irrelevant. And a lot of the times, like, I remember when I was in school, like, if I did see something, there was always people who were older than me in school. And I looked at them like, amazing. You're amazing. You're going back to school. You're taking something. You're getting stuff done. Like, who could even knock that? You know, like, other than you, like, you're the one being insecure. So anything that you think, you're going to perceive everyone to be like judging you. And really it's like just you and your perception. So anyways, yeah, like, you're not wrong for going back. It's actually really, like, I commend you for going back. And also, like, you're not missing out on anything if you feel like you're back in college and everyone else is like having that college experience and you're not. That's totally fine. There's many students, regardless of age, that are not partying, who are not like having all these crazy friend groups and sorority and like the college pictures and this, that. Like, no, that's just what you see on social media, honestly. And maybe sometimes in school too, but like, it's totally fine if you're not that. Like, there's so many people who you can find who are honestly just like studying and doing their own thing as well. Okay, somebody asked how to decide your major. Listen, what you're not going to do is decide your life path from somebody on the internet who gives you advice. So just take this with a pinch of salt, okay? I do think though, like, one thing, and by the way, like, thank you for asking. Like, I'm not saying like that was a stupid question, but it's just like I don't know. Like, I can only give you my advice. Take it with a pinch of salt. I think, for one, you're never going to fully know. So just like always leave room for that. Like, I feel like some people really struggle with choosing because they really just don't know. So I would say you don't need to fully know, and most likely things are going to change anyways, and you can do that throughout school. So don't wait for the time that you're going to feel 1000% like, yes, I got this and I know exactly what I want to do. And even if you do, I thought that I did. I told myself that I did, and I decided that I did not want to do that. So that's totally fine. Okay. But thinking about like what you do well in or what major you should take, I think you just have to think about, what are you interested in? What could you sit down and like watch YouTubes for hours about, like videos, I should say, not YouTubes, videos for like hours about, or read about? Or what does your friends or your family always say that you're super, super good at? Now, I feel like a lot of people, like especially girls, will be like, oh, like, I'm the advice friend. Like, everyone comes to me for advice. Like, I love it, whatever. And you see them go into the field of psychology, which is like, would make kind of sense. Maybe even more into communications per se. But like, yeah, just thinking about, what are your kind of natural talents and gifts? What are you naturally really, really interested? Even if, let's say, you're not talented at that thing, but like, what are you really interested in? And when you take that major, like, you're going to find certain classes that spark an interest within you, and you can go in that direction. So I would say that. Now, I think also making sure you do a lot of research on the types of majors and like degrees and everything that you can get is very helpful, because I just think back to when I took hospitality, like, as much as, yes, I was interested in that because that's how I thought I wanted to like live my life and have that career, I also was not even looking at anything to do with marketing, communications, and or psychology, or even social work or sociology, anything like that. And those were the things that I was actually really interested in. And I feel like if I did more research, then I would have came across programs like that, and I probably would have considered doing that. So I would just really say, do your research. And a lot of people nowadays, not everyone, I know not all you guys are really into like social media and stuff, but a lot of you guys are into wanting to do something with social media, let's say. But let's say you still have to go to school, like, for sure. I've seen a lot of people do this, and they've actually, especially my one friend Tess, like, she I don't know if she was into social media before she went to school. I don't think so. I don't think that's how it worked, but I see a lot of people and her using their degrees to apply to things like social media. Like they became content creators, they became something to do with branding or marketing, things like that. So let's say you're really into something to do with social media. Well, maybe if you go onto the school's website and there's no actual program about like how to be social media influencer or whatever, but maybe you look at more things like marketing or PR communications, and what you will find is there's going to be a lot of crossover when it comes to the social media world. So I would say maybe look into that if you're really interested in that. Of course, obviously, like if you love watching YouTube videos on health and wellness or YouTube videos. I don't know. I know not everyone only just watches YouTube videos, but I'm just saying like, this is just an example of something that may spark your interest. If you find that you're reading a lot or watching a lot of podcasts or listening to a lot of podcasts about health and fitness or psychology or like social issues, then maybe you can look into like more social work or sociology or of course psychology, things like that. So I would just think about the things that you really love and are interested in, and people will also say that you're really good at. Or let's say you start asking your friends and family, like, what could you see me doing? You know? And a lot of the times, sometimes we know, like when people tell us like, oh, when people tell me, oh, I could see you being a therapist, like obviously that's like the number one thing that I always get. I always knew that, but there's obviously like certain things too that people will tell me that I never really thought of, but then because people see parts of you that you actually don't necessarily see or don't believe in. So like for me, I remember like all my life, people would always say that like they could see me becoming like one of those dancers, like background dancers, or just like dancers with people like big celebrities who are on stage all the time. And I was like, I wanted to do that, but like that part of me was like thrown into my shadows so much that I just like never even considered it. I never ever looked at myself like somebody who could ever be able to be a background dancer or whatever. But people around me saw like, you have talent, you could do that, like whatever. Obviously that wasn't my life path, at least for right now, it's not, but like, it's good to kind of ask people their opinions in a way, not from a place of like guiding you and like deciding, but just to see what people think and like what they could see you doing based off of your amazingness that maybe you can't fully see yet. Okay, somebody said, well, multiple people had said this, how to study something I don't really like. And she said it was med school, or maybe it was a guy, but I'm pretty sure it was a girl. But I have to because of my parents. And then somebody else said like, I want to drop out, but my mom is forcing me, Again, this is coming from somebody on the internet. Like, I can't dictate your life. Obviously, if you are under the age of like 18, you only have so much decision making that you can make, right? I really do think it's very unfortunate that, and this, you know what? I'll play devil's advocate here. I understand why parents, for the most part, push their children to do something like med school or become a freaking scientist or med school is a doctor, but whatever, something in that field, or a lawyer, or things like that, because that's what they've learned how to do. And like, that's going to be quote unquote where you make money and things like that. And it's like a survival thing. They want their best for the kids, this, that. But I do think that it's also really sad because it's like a lot of people don't want to do that. And I think that there's a lot of people who go through years and years and years of this stuff where they end up becoming very unhappy and they're in debt and they literally don't want to do it. So this is what I would suggest, okay? And this is coming from somebody who did not have a parent who forced them to do anything they didn't want to do. And when I mean that is my mother. Well, my father is a whole complete different story, but he also passed away when I was 16 years old, and that would have been a different story. Although he wasn't super hard with me when it came to academia because he wasn't really an academic. He was hard on me about other things. A lot of the times it was helpful, and some of the times it was traumatizing, to say the least. But when it came to school, he didn't really have that much of a say because he also like wasn't that successful when it came to school. Love him though, obviously, rest in peace. But my mom, on the other hand, was completely different, and she was very, very open and like let me do whatever I wanted, which was great. I love that. So it's coming from somebody who did not have that. So this is what I think my best advice and like what maybe could I'm not even going to say could work, okay? Understand that this might not work, but almost like build a case for yourself. Because this is the thing, you're saying like you don't want to do med school, or like you want to drop out, or you don't want to do this. Okay. You need to come up with a very good reason as to why you don't want to do this and what you want to do instead. Because understand that your parents are not going to be okay with you not doing anything. So if you're coming to them just being like, I don't want to do it anymore, and like, I don't like it, and it's just stressful and this, that. Okay, well, guess what? You got to do something. So what is it going to be? And if you have not built a case, if you have not done your research, if you have not followed your interests or your passions, and you've done your, like I just said, research, and you've written like a huge case as to what you can do differently if you drop out, like what you're going to do, like your whole plan, everything like that, are you going to convince them to be able to leave this, whatever it is that you're doing? Probably not. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to work, but I think that is going to be your best bet when it comes to trying to change somebody's mind about something, because again, your parents want the best for you. They want to see you grow and evolve. And honestly, a lot of parents don't even know what's out there other than like med school, or going to be a lawyer, or going into business, or accounting, things like that, right? So they might not even be aware. And again, this might be so much convincing that it might be too much and you never be able to change their mind, but who really knows? And the last thing I'll say about the whole not wanting to take this major, if that doesn't work and you can't convince your parents of, leaving, dropping out, things like that, and it's really not your decision, which it really should be, I just think that you should really try and be open and understand that not every single class you're going to like, and not every single class you're going to like excel at maybe. But if you, and I know it can be hard, like med school, like I never went to med school. I can only imagine, and I commend people for that. But like for you to even expect yourself to love it, I don't know. I think that's I don't think anyone could possibly love every single part of med school. But I feel like if you're open and you have a positive mindset and optimistic mindset, you might start to, I'm not saying you're going to absolutely love it and enjoy it, but maybe you'll pick up on something that you didn't because you were open or because you enjoyed it. And that's going to lead you into a new insight or a new interest that will lead you into a new class. And maybe that is a class that opens up your mind about, specializing in something when it came to med school. And maybe actually you do want to be in med school, but maybe you just didn't want to do this specialization, or like something sparks your interest or your passion. But when you are very, very, very closed off and you're like, I don't want to be here and I'm not going to do this and whatever. Well, if you're going to be there and you have to do it, then do your best to make it the best damn fucking year that you possibly can make it, or years, right? And I know it can be difficult when you've been you're convinced yourself like, absolutely not, I do not want to do this. But I think that if you learn how to be a little bit more productive, you learn not how to overwhelm yourself too much and not have so much anxiety and stress when it comes to studying and like managing school, which can be difficult. I know it can. I think that it does give you a little bit more room to find something, because I just believe no matter what path you're taking, whether it's not necessarily the path you want to be on, taking steps forward will eventually get you to where it is that you're supposed to be in life. But if you dig your heels into the ground and you say, no, I don't want to do this and I want to do nothing at all, then no, you're not going to find what it is that you really are passionate about. And if you have this circumstance that is very fixed right now, and I've been in very fixed environments and situations and I couldn't get out of them, the only thing that I could do is change my perception about those experiences and say, you know what? I got to do with what I have right now. This is not ideal. I don't want to be in it, but I'm going to find some light, some positive aspect of this shitty ass thing right now. And I'm going to make this work as much as I can. And every single time I changed my mindset and my perception around the thing that was happening in my life, from looking at it as negative to somewhat positive and somewhat, this is a part of my journey. There's a reason for this. There's a lesson for this. I always found what it is that I was supposed to find. I always found my path. I always found some insight that brought me closer to where it is that I am today. So just take that with what you will. I know it can be difficult, but I would honestly say build a really solid case for your parents if you're really trying to change something. Oh, one thing, actually, I will say this. My mom did push me a little bit in school, and I'll give you this quick thing. Not quick. You already know it's not gonna be quick. So when I was in hospitality, at that point it was my second year, and I kind of knew that I didn't want to like go out west and work in the hotels and the resorts. I didn't really want to do that. So I was kind of like checked out of it, and I was really into health and fitness, and like I just didn't want to pursue anything, but I was still going to do it. Like I wasn't going to drop out. I was going to finish the course, whatever. It was easy, fun course, whatever. I had a good time in school. But one of our classes was co-op. So we had to find a co-op, and the co-op had to be, which is like an internship, by the way, if you guys don't know. Was it unpaid? Yes, it was an unpaid internship. So we had to find something in the field of hospitality. And now a lot of people went to hotels and worked at the front desk, or they did some sort of management or whatever. But hospitality also includes bartending and serving. And now we actually had a fine dining class where we got taught everything. We had a wine and spirits class. We got trained the top of the line how to serve highest end. It was great. Although I hated it. I hated fine dining. I did not want to serve. I still to this day do not like serving fine dining. Like I would never be able to work at a really expensive steakhouse or anything because I just like cannot. I cannot. I just like, I don't know, whatever. So, even though I did work and do fine dining at a private golf club, I ended up doing that, and I literally hated that part of it. I hated working in the dinner service part. I liked doing like bartending and working on the course and stuff like that. But anyways, we had to find an internship. And so while I was at Georgian College I was still working full-time at Tim Hortons because it was just an easy job that was paying my bills for what I had to pay. And I had seniority there at the end of the day. Like I was a good worker. It was very easy. It was like home to me. So I worked there for a long time, and I was like, okay, well, let me just do extra hours at Tim Hortons because it falls under hospitality, and I was able to actually get them to actually do it if I wanted to. And I knew I was keeping very small because it was already a place that I was working at. But I was like, I don't really want to do anything. So like, let me just stay here and just do extra hours here. And my mom was like, you're not doing that. You are not doing that. You're going to find a job that's in the hospitality, even if it's not your job, even if it's not in a hotel, you're at least going to go find something. And they had a list of things where you could work, right? And so that's where I found the golf course, because golf courses are tied into like the hospitality because yes, it's like serving and bartending, but there's like events that you can do. And like I did a lot of bartending weddings, and I did a lot of setups for weddings. We set up weddings every single weekend. It was insane the amount of weddings that I worked. And so there was all that hospitality aspect of things and like different little corporate events and stuff that we did. So I ended up finding the golf course, and then I was like, okay, I'll go to the interview, and I ended up getting that job, and I did co-op, so I did all the events and everything like that, and then I ended up realizing that there's more money to be made in the serving and bartending industry than there is working a minimum wage job at Tim Hortons. So even though I still didn't want to work in hospitality, and I decided when I graduated that I'm not going out west, I'm not working at a hotel and resort, I don't really care to do that, I ended up getting a job out of this, which was a job that allowed me so much experience to not only move into another, like I ended up, obviously when I left Barrie, I served and bartended at an actual like true restaurant, even though that was a true restaurant. And on top of that, it made me so much more money. And I gained so much more experience, and I was, I came in contact with so many people that actually was like at the golf club, like very wealthy people at the golf club, very connected, well-connected people. I made so many cool friends there. And it just allowed me to work smarter, not harder. And I wouldn't have like been able, and the reason why I'm saying this too is because the serving and bartending literally held me all the way till I wanted to leave my corporate job and be able to do social media full time, because I was still serving and bartending as I was doing my corporate job. And then when I realized I didn't want to do that as well in the health and fitness space, I was like, okay, well, I want to leave this job. And I was able to leave because I was making enough money in a short amount of time, bartending and serving, which allowed me to work on my social media to get me to where I'm at right now. So that was needed. I had to take that leap, not even a leap of faith, I shouldn't say that, but I had to take that step out of my comfort zone, even though I was convinced I didn't want to, no, I'm just going to stay here. And my mom was like, no, you're going in that direction. So I guess I say that as well is because like, as much as you might think that you know something, it's not that you don't, right? But it's like, don't have so much resistance to things because you never know where that could lead you. And that was a part of my path. That wasn't the end all, working at the golf club or anything to do with hospitality, but that was a bridge to where I'm at right now. It made my life 10 times more easier to be able to build my social media on the side when I was able to work, let's say 4 shifts a week versus a 5 work week, Monday to Friday, driving in and out of work and all of this shit and not even making enough money to be able to like live, versus like bartending, not even working as many hours, but making a fuck ton of money in tips in a short amount of time. Right. So it's just like, everything is connected. I swear I could go for days. Everything is connected. Okay. Oh my gosh. This episode's getting really, really long, but whatever. I haven't done a very long episode in a long time. Study techniques. Okay. So I use this thing and it's called the Pomodoro. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's spelled Pomodoro. And it's essentially this technique where you study on and then you take a break and then you study on, take a break, on and off, on and off. Now, I don't think it matters like how many minutes. Like I think that there's people who do like 25 minutes on and then you take a 5-minute break and then 25 minutes and then a 5-minute break until you hit an hour or until you hit the goal that you wanted to actually accomplish. But what you can do is you can go on YouTube, and I do this. The reason why I'm also really saying this is because I still use this today when I do any sort of work, but especially when I'm writing my book and I'm doing things regarding like writing. I go on YouTube and I use that method, but I also just sometimes just go on and write a 1 hour or 2 hour study with me. And I like work through that whole entire thing. So it depends on if you want breaks or not. I find if you're somebody who's very overwhelmed, you have a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress, it's better to do this method where you're timed for 25 minutes. And then what it will do, it will beep on YouTube, and then you can take your 5-minute break and then go back into it. My Lord, that's when you know I've been talking for way too long, when my camera keeps heating up. I don't know where I stopped, but we were talking about the study techniques. So if you are doing something that's creative and you need a lot of like creative flow and just like writing, I honestly highly suggest you just go on YouTube and find like a 1 hour or 2 hour study with me with no breaks, and then just take a break when you need to. But if you are overwhelmed or you just are doing tasks that don't necessarily involve a lot of flow state, and it's just like you doing some research or I don't know, mundane tasks, but for a project, then I would suggest maybe doing the Pomodoro, I think that's how you say it, study technique. I just think that it just helps, and just having a timer in general in the background, and they usually play music in the background as well. So I would suggest that. And also, again, go to my productivity episode that I did last week, and I have some good tips for that as well. Somebody asked tips on how to take notes. And this is the reason why I wrote this is because I used to be somebody who would chronically try and write absolutely every single thing that the teacher would be saying, and I would then not actually take in anything at all. And I realized as I started to really apply myself in school that I would actually learn something when I listened to the teacher instead of focusing on writing down every single word, because half the time that I'm writing down these things, I'm not even going to remember it. So then when it comes to test time or when it comes to actually going home and learning something, I have actually no idea what it is that I learned, and I have to reread all my notes. But even when I'm reading the notes, like I'm not retaining the information because I wasn't engaged with what they were saying. So this is what I say. You can take notes, sure, but like literally just take notes in a way of like, oh, this is interesting and this is something that I don't really know too much about. So I'm going to write it down. I'm going to jot it down on my paper, and I'm going to look into it later, or I'm going to look into the textbook that we have for the class later, or I'm going to ask my teacher about this later. I'm not going to try and write every single word that they're saying. I will like literally research that later. The main thing is let me listen to what the teacher is saying, because this is what happens when you actually listen to the teacher. You are actually retaining the information. You are like imagining in your head, or you're listening to their words, or whatever it is, however you learn. I know everyone's like different and people are like neurodivergent and this, that, but I think it's really important for you to be engaged with the teacher. And this is what's going to happen. If you don't actually understand something, that is when you can actually put up your hand and ask. You need to ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask. And I get it. I used to be somebody who was deathly afraid to put my hand up in class. Okay. I get it, but you can't be that person. If you do not understand, put up your hand and ask in that moment, or Write something down that you do not understand that they just said. And at the end of class, go ask and get them to explain it to you. Because this is what's going to happen. If you do not understand something, you're going to keep going down this road of not understanding more and more things, and things are going to get more confusing for you. There's so many times where I didn't ask questions. And once I started asking questions in class, I was like, oh my God, now I get it because somebody explained it to me. Or I stopped trying to write everything word for word because half that shit was irrelevant anyways, and just listened to what they're saying. And then I actually went home and realized that I understood what it is that they were saying because I was listening. I wasn't writing things. I wasn't trying to recall, what was that word she said before that word? No, please taking notes very, very lightly, I guess. I don't know. Just don't put that your main focus. I just think that it's very counterproductive. At least somebody, especially for me, I'll say I need time. I need a lot of time to understand a concept. I need to ask a lot of questions. And I was never a student in school where let's say in a math, a math class, and they're doing some calculation on the board, and then the teacher turns around and says, okay, what's the answer? And everyone's hands are flying up. My hand wasn't flying up because I still need to sit here and calculate what I'm seeing on the board. I need a second. And if you're a person who needs a second, most likely it's not going to be helpful for you to just try and word for word write whatever it is. And instead give yourself time to understand something by just listening. Digest the information, ask your question, and move on. And then, of course, go home and think about it again and work it out, or ask somebody to explain it to you if you need. Somebody had said advice on failing classes, thinking these classes are not for you, getting selected or not, feeling not smart enough. I think the worst thing that you could do for yourself is to now look at yourself. If let's say you failed a class or you didn't get selected or whatever, you are less than, that you're dumb, that you can't do it, whatever. And I know obviously that's how you're going to feel initially when you get a bad grade or you're not understanding something. But I think there's no reason for you. First of all, you're not going to be 100% perfect all the time. And if you're a straight A student, amazing. You're just so amazing. We love that for you. Okay. But I was not that. And I think that, like I had already said, the worst thing that you can do is try and now you're creating this self-concept that you are somebody who fails. That's somebody who doesn't get it. Somebody who will never understand it. I remember I used to tell myself all the time, I don't understand math, or I don't understand science, or I can't do it. Stop telling yourself that you can't do it. Start telling yourself a new story. Okay, I struggle with this topic and I need to learn how to learn better and retain the information better, but it doesn't mean that I can't understand science or I can't understand complex topics. Do you know how many times that I thought that I couldn't understand anything to do with psychology, sociology, economics, politics? Every time I heard anything to do with any of those subjects, I was like, nope, I have no idea. I don't get it. Until I was and even geography, by the way. And then I was like, you know what? No. My schooling has been completely shit, okay? And all I needed was more time and extra help that I didn't get. And on top of that, I came from a household that was not, it wasn't helpful for me to actually learn. I went home and nobody was checking on if I was doing schoolwork. And if I was, my dad was screaming at me. So then I didn't understand anything anyways. Or my mom, she was at work, so she couldn't really help me. There was many things at home life that wasn't creating an environment where I was able to actually retain information and understand things. So no wonder I wasn't the best student, honestly. So you kind of have to look at your life in that way. And we didn't have any money to do any tutoring or anything like that either. But I never let my upbringing or the fact that I struggled at one point understanding different topics at school affect how I was going to learn when I was older. And I realized, okay, these are things that I still do not understand, and it's affecting how I show up in life and conversations, and I want to understand them. So I decided to take my time and learn them, however long it was going to take. If I had to spend time after school, if I was in school learning about a certain topic, or even after I was out of college and I realized, I don't know a lot about geography or economics or freaking geography. I feel like a lot of us come out of school not knowing shit all. So I just decided to take my time. And I think that, you aren't even if you feel like you're not understanding something, there's usually probably a reason. Like maybe it's the way in which that you're trying to learn that thing, or maybe you're putting a lot of stress on it. And then of course, there's always gonna be times where you just you're not interested in certain topics. So it's gonna be harder for you to stay focused on. And that's also okay too. Like, I don't think that you're gonna excel in absolutely every single thing. It doesn't mean that you're dumb or whatever. It's just like that topic's probably not for you, and that's totally fine. And also, like, even in school, like if you do need more time on an exam or a test or a project, or you have to ask a lot more questions than the other people in your class, who cares? Literally irrelevant what somebody else and how they are learning and what they are doing is compared to you. Let's leave that at the door. Let's leave comparison at the door. Somebody had also asked, I struggle with secretly kind of feeling like I have to compete with my friends in terms of grades and projects and all that kind of stuff. And I get it. It's not bad to be having a little part of you that's competitive in a sense of you want to just be successful, right? But other people's success should really be irrelevant to yours, because there's room for a lot of people to win. Okay. A lot of people live in scarcity and they think that there is none, and there is. So I would suggest just focusing on your path, what you need to do when it comes to educating yourself, asking questions, applying yourself, listening, taking that extra time, prioritizing school right now. And if that means, yes, you're going to have to, not hang out with your friends all the time, or all of this time into hobbies, even if your friends are doing that, guess what? You are on the path that you need to be on. And guess what? All of this time that you put towards school and working on your future self is going to be worth it. I promise you, it's never not going to be worth it if you decide to bet on yourself and go for what you want in your life. Someone also asked, how to get a job after college. Now, I'll quickly just sum it up by saying, start as soon as you can. If you're in college still last year, because there's a few people who are in their last years, set yourself up for success. Start looking for jobs in the industry that you need. Also be open to people and places and connections. Going on LinkedIn can help, searching up people in certain roles of the companies that you're trying to get into, let's say. Using the teacher resources that they give you that nobody wants to freaking take or apply themselves to. Be super open, even if you feel I don't want to be in that job, or that job seems boring or whatever. You never know. You could start at a position and then 3 months later they open up a new position and it gives you more money, or it gives you more experience, and then that experience leads to something else. Also understand that when you're starting out somewhere new in a field, there's going to be times where you're going to have to put in that work, and it might be free work, right? Or whatever. When you're starting out new, you kind of have to really put your effort and understand that people are looking for value. What value can you bring me to this job right now? As an intern, as somebody, let's say, or even if I'm going to pay you, what do you have that's different than everyone else's? And a lot of the times business owners, it's not even just about them looking for credentials. I hear this all the time. Even for me, when I got my corporate job, I didn't even have I did have the credentials, but there are people who had way more credentials than I did, but I decided to apply myself. I decided to continue to ask, to show up, to help, extra help. I would even pick up shifts for people. I would ask people do you need extra help on any projects that you need? Always telling them I'm available. I want this job. Please let me know if anything opens up. I made very deep connections with the managers. I always made sure that I was following up with things. Being proactive in that way is going to put you in the eyes of somebody who eventually is going to need you to fill a position. So you ain't going to get what you want by sitting around and hoping and praying and wishing on a damn star. I'll tell you that for free. Even when it comes to manifesting, yes, get the mindset right, spiritual, this, that, and the third, vibes, high vibrations. But at the end of the day, you have to take that action and go and do the thing that you want, right? If you want to become a YouTuber, you need to actually decide when it is that you're going to sit down and film and record and upload a video, and do it consistently. You're not going to be a YouTuber by not doing that. So there's always the masculine with the feminine. Stop letting your anxiety take over you asking a question. Understand that those thoughts and those negative stories that you have are just old manifestations of you and the self-doubt that's irrelevant. It's not you. It's not the story. You are smart. You can do it. You can learn. You can implement things. Even if it takes you a lot of time, whatever it is, you have to start to reconstruct that story that you tell yourself. Oh, one more quick question that I'll answer, because I forgot about that one. Someone said how to deal with girl drama and friendship drama. I literally just wrote on my notes, don't. Just don't. Just don't. don't deal with it. If people are gossiping and people are doing shit you don't want to do and you know it's not aligned to you, this is not the time anymore. Like, I'm so sick and tired, I don't care what age you're at, that we just like feel like we have to deal with stupid shit we don't want to. This is not the year that we're going to be dealing with things that we do not want to deal with. If people are around you who are being negative, who are complaining, who are gossiping, who are doing shit you don't want to do, remove yourself from the situation, find new friends, stop people pleasing. I literally posted a video on my YouTube. If you struggle with that, people pleasing, focus on your vision that you hold for yourself. And if you don't have one, make a vision. Where do you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years? What are the steps in which you're going to take to get yourself there? And how are you going to do that every single day? And keep focus on that. And I think that productivity video will definitely help. And also my videos on preparing for fall will definitely help on YouTube. But I just think that it's just, you have to think about the bigger picture here. I don't care what age you're at. Like, this is not, we have a lot of time here on earth, but we don't have that much time, okay, to just be wasting our time doing things we don't want to do, or talking about things that we don't want to do, or being friends with people who don't want to be friends with. And this is the thing, like, you're probably going to upset some people when you decide that you don't want to engage in conversation about certain topics, or party anymore, or focus on yourself more. And that's okay. And I honestly just think that that's kind of the price that you pay to becoming the person that you really want to be. And understanding that, in the moment, you might lose some friends, or you might feel like you're being left out because you're not doing what everyone else is doing in college or high school or whatever. But that also doesn't mean that you're always going to be lonely as well. Like, you're actually creating a lot of room for people to come into your life that you actually want to spend time with, and you want to do fun things with, and you want to have this life, or relationships, even when you like step out of hookup culture and you stop doing all that stupid shit. You might feel like, oh, it's boring, I'm alone, I'm a loner, I'm single, but you're creating a lot of space for healthier people to come into your life. So just understand that. But in the moment, yes, you will have to kind of deprioritize things and lose a few things, but understand that it's all for you and it's not against you. So I hope this episode helped you in some capacity. I ranted for so long about so many things. I realized that I just had way too many questions. I couldn't even answer them all. I wish you guys nothing but the best for the school year, and I'll be here every week. So if you guys need more advice or anything like that, you can always submit your questions on the podcast Instagram or on the community tab here on YouTube. If you're watching, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you aren't, because I know a lot of people just find my videos on the homepage. Also, I am considering doing 2 episodes a week on the podcast starting sometime in September, but I want to talk about that next week, because next week's going to be a little bit more chatty as well when it comes to just like the summer ending, things that helped me glow up this summer, lots of recommendations, just chit chat shit. That sounded really weird. Also, like, things that I want to do for the podcast and stuff. So you'll hear more about that next week. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.